When you think world's largest snake, you're probably picturing the Amazon, right? Well, what if I told you the record holder was actually found in an Indian coal mine? Yep. Today, we're digging into the incredible story of a 50-foot serpent that is completely changing what we thought we knew about giant predators. Let's get right into it.
I mean, it's a creepy question, right? Kind of makes you look at the ground a little differently. But for this story, the monster was absolutely real. For millions and millions of years, the bones of a true giant were just sleeping, waiting.
So where does this all begin? Not in some remote jungle, but in a busy coal mine in Gujarat, India. It's kind of ironic, isn't it? While digging for one kind of fossil fuel, they found a completely different kind of fossil.
Okay, so picture this. It's 2005. You're a miner, working heavy machinery, and suddenly you dig up something weird. It's definitely not coal. It's a bunch of huge, kind of L-shaped bones. The first thought? Whoa, must be an ancient crocodile. And for a long, long time, that's all anyone thought it was. Case closed, right?
Well, not exactly. For almost 20 years, those bones just sat in storage, a forgotten puzzle box. But then, in 2022, a new team of scientists from IIT Roorkee decided to dust off that box and take a fresh look. They were about to reopen one heck of a paleontological cold case.
And just like that, the investigation was back on. These scientists were now faced with solving a 47-million-year-old mystery.
So the team, led by Dr. Datta and Dr. Bajpai, started playing detective. Their main piece of evidence, 27 massive vertebrae. Okay, suspect number 1, an ancient crocodile. Nope, the bones just didn't fit. The structure was all wrong. All right, what about suspect number 2, an early whale? They were known to me in the area back then. But again, no match. The shape was completely different. So after they ruled out all the usual suspects, they were left with one single shocking conclusion.
It was a snake. Can you just imagine that moment in the lab? That realization that these giant bones, we're talking vertebrae as big as your hand, belong to a snake? Mind-blowing. But of course, that incredible answer just led to an even bigger question.
Okay, so it's a snake. But the sheer size of these bones meant they were dealing with something on a completely different scale. They had a new problem to solve.
And it was a big one. Just how big was this thing?
And you know what's crazy? The entire investigation, the key to the whole mystery, really came down to a single piece of evidence. A vertebra so big you could rest it in the palm of your hand. That was it. That was the clue.
And this is where the really cool science comes in. They didn't just, guess. They did the hard work. They measured every fossilized vertebra they had. Then they compared those measurements to a huge database of more than 100 modern snake species. Basically, they figured out the math that connects vertebra size to total body length in snakes today, and then they used that formula to calculate the size of their ancient giant.
So they ran the numbers, and the answer they got back was just staggering. Their analysis pointed to a snake that could have been up to 15 meters long. That's almost 50 feet. 50 feet is honestly, it's hard to even wrap your head around. So let's try to put that into perspective. We're talking longer than a city bus, heavier than a small car, about 1,000 kilograms, almost the full length of a cricket pitch. If it stood on its tail, it would be as tall as a 2-story building. This wasn't just a big snake, it was an absolute monster. You can't find a monster like that and give it a boring name, right? So they called it Vasuki indicus. Vasuki is the mythical serpent king from Hindu legends, and indicus is just Latin for from India. It's the perfect name for a true legendary monster from the land of India.
So, this raises a new question. What kind of world creates a 50-foot snake? To figure that out, we have to go back in time, way back, 47 million years, to a period called the Eocene. Forget the India you know today. This was a different planet. 47 million years ago, the Indian subcontinent had just smashed into Asia. The Himalayas hadn't even really started to rise yet. And the climate? It was hot and swampy. We're talking a steamy tropical paradise with an average temperature of 28 degrees Celsius. Basically, the perfect hothouse for a cold-blooded giant to thrive. So how did a giant like this hunt? Well, it wasn't a speed demon. Vasuki belonged to an ancient, extinct snake family called Matsoideae, and its whole strategy was about being a slow, patient ambush predator. Think of it moving straight, kind of like a giant caterpillar, not slithering in an S shape. It would just lie there, waiting in the water, perfectly still, and then when something like a catfish, a turtle, or even a crocodile or an early whale ancestor came too close, bam! It was a constrictor, and it would use all of that 1-ton weight and 50 feet of muscle to crush its prey.
Now, for a long time, another giant snake held the heavyweight title for world's largest. You've probably heard of it. But with Vasuki's discovery, we've got a new challenger in the ring. So it's time for a little Clash of the Titans.
In this corner, weighing in at about 1,100 kilograms, from Colombia, Titanoboa. And in this corner, the challenger from India, Vasuki indicus. So looking at the tail of the tape, Vasuki takes the prize for length, stretching out a good bit longer, but Titanoboa was the heavier of the two, packing a bit more bulk.
So who was the real king? Well, they never would have met. They lived millions of years and entire continents apart. But it's just incredible to think that our planet produced not one, but two of these absolute behemoths. Makes you wonder what else is still buried out there, doesn't it?
So, Vasuki was a king, an apex predator, with basically no rivals. It's the top of the food chain, so what could possibly take down a 50-foot giant? What happened to it?
Well, it turns out its greatest strength was also its fatal flaw. The very thing that allowed it to get so huge, that super hot tropical climate, was its undoing. Because when the Earth started a global cooling trend around 34 million years ago, Vasuki was in trouble. As a cold-blooded animal, it relied on that external heat to power its enormous body. When the heat went away, it just couldn't sustain itself anymore. The very world that built this king is the same world that brought it down.
And Vasuki's legacy is so much more than just its insane size. For scientists, this snake is a climate indicator. It's living proof of just how hot and tropical ancient India really was. It's also another piece of the puzzle for continental drift. Finding this specific snake family here suggests they might have originated on the Indian subcontinent and then spread as the continents moved. It helps us map out the story of life on a planet that's always changing.
Okay, I'm going to leave you with one final kind of unsettling thought. Remember, that 50-foot estimate? That's a conservative guess, based on only 27 bones and no skull. So what if the one they found wasn't even a fully grown adult? What if there were even bigger ones out there, slithering through those ancient swamps? It really makes you wonder what other secrets our world is still hiding, just waiting for us to find them.